Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and I'm very pleased to have with me again Julie Thiel, TTS Company. Julie, thank you for joining me today.
I'm delighted to be here today. I really enjoy our conversations and bringing topics around leadership forward. I know we say HR, but at the end of the day, all of people management and people practices are about leadership. So excited to be here.
Julie, we have been part of, in fact, we should make sure that they're put together on our website. This is a series of podcasts, recommendations, really, insights from Julie to the MSPs and channel partners, especially about HR. But it's much more than, I think when we say HR, a lot of people think, well, that means hiring.
They kind of go like this when you say
right.
HR.
Yeah.
HR often is considered like the fun police and the dream killers, right? And that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the type of HR and support that helps you grow your business, frankly.
And we can sort of start there because sure. I have a feeling where that may come from is so many people in our industry kind of they may have probably very likely worked at a large company at one point, and they kind of fell out of that or crashed out of it or walked out of it. And they deliberately wanted to be entrepreneurial. They wanted to be on their own. So they didn't want the type of organization that even has an HR department.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's true. And I one of the hardest things for me is when I walk into a party and I'm meeting people for the first time. Of course, everyone says, "What do you do?" And when I say HR, it's like, I think used car dealers and HR are like at the same level because everyone has a story about an HR person that was terrible, that treated them badly or was really extra rigid or strict. I mean, I hate to say it, but the profession has a bad reputation because I think there have been people in it that are more concerned about getting the paper over the line than helping the people. And again, there are some paperwork you got to do. So, I mean, for sure. But there's a whole different aspect of human resources and getting support that, I'm excited to be bringing forward because I think it's missing and can be really valuable for leaders that are growing their businesses.
Well, today's topic is small moments, big leadership impact. I'll put that up on the screen. So that's what you sent over when we were thinking and planning this podcast. What did you mean by that?
Absolutely. Well, small moments. So I think when people think of becoming a leader, I think they think it's like I don't know, maybe it's because of movies, like leaders on movies are always kind of bigger than life and big conversations and motivational talks. And I don't know, when I think leaders, when people think of leadership, I think they think many times of kind of these big dramatic actions, right? And the reality is, when you're leading people, you're leading people. And at the end of the day, leadership done well is about building a strong relationship. And if you rather than thinking of, okay, I'm the boss now, so I got to be this formal person, think about it like you think about building relationships in any other area of your life. You need to spend time with people in order to build a relationship. And trust is built through very small moments. It's built through asking how you are. It's through recognizing someone's efforts. It's through, just a quick check-in or following up on something important or, doing what you said you were going to do. I mean, at the end of the day, leadership is this whole series of those small actions that end up building into a bigger relationship that helps your business and team be more productive.
As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, so many personalities in our industry, that's just not a natural fit. They're just walk in or they start their day and there's so many tasks on the table. Maybe it's a forgotten thing to find out how are you and all that.
Yeah. It is. It's easy to miss. And my heart goes out to these owners and managers who are working so hard to kind of serve clients and lift up their business because it does take a little time to build trust, but it can be done. The reason I like talking about it in the terms of like small moments is that it can be just an add-on to things you're already doing. You're going to go talk to a member of your team about a client issue. Say a problem comes up. You're going to go talk to them anyway about that issue. Take just one more question to say, and what do you have planned this weekend? I mean, again, if it's today on a Friday, that one little extra, and then listen a little longer than you were planning. Stand and listen and engage on that topic just a little bit. It doesn't have to be huge, but that can make an incredible difference. Those little bits over time create that, foundation of trust. And if you have trust, everything else gets easier. So everything else you do in your business is easier if you've got strong trust with your team.
I'm thinking people don't have the benefit of hearing all the chatter before this podcast, but we were sort of, both of us, reflecting on, jobs that one has when you're a kid and so on.
Sure.
It's funny that, I don't know about you, but the moments that I remember are just these tiny fractional moments of something that somebody said, not so much the work itself.
Absolutely. Well, I look back and I go, I've been in HR my entire career, so over 30 years now. And I was kind of a very junior HR person advising senior leaders on what they should be doing. Okay. And so I had all the knowledge of how do you build trust and how do you do this? And it's very easy to tell someone how to do that. It is much different when it's you.
Right.
So I went through my own process. Like, I just remember, looking at these leaders and being like, why won't they just talk to their people? Why can't they do that? And then I was in the chair 10 years later when I got my first manager job. And I was like, oh, this is why. It's because you're absolutely overwhelmed with all the work. I mean, the work is a lot. And to work in the people side can take a little bit of intention.
So what's your recommendations for, these smaller entrepreneurial companies to sort of work this in, to kind of make it a habit and to sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this is kind of the hill that I will die on, is that you need to be meeting with your team one-on-one regularly. So this idea of having some sort of regular one-on-one. And I appreciate when you talked about businesses that are perhaps a little resistant to structure. Like, I think this is sometimes hard to accept, but you can't build a relationship with someone that you never spend time with. And even if it's for an experienced person, we're going to have a one-on-one once a month. And outside of that, we're just going to do informal flyby, check-in type of stuff, email, whatever it is. Even if it's just once a month, having an hour in that case, I'd say, where you sit down and just say, let's talk about what you've done well. Let's talk about what your struggles are. Let's talk about, what's next in this next month. And starting it with that little bit of, and how are you doing really, can go a long way. And even, everyone's got a different level of, personal connection that they want. There are certainly people that are like, I just want to talk about the work, and absolutely respect that. But most people do want to feel like they're being seen and heard. And if they're like, my daughter just recently graduated. Well, a year ago graduated high school, and she's been in college. And, the friends of mine that will say, it's like a friend, like, hey, how is your daughter's first year been in college? Just that little bit of showing that you remember, and then asking the question, just, as a boss to an employee, that can mean a lot. So again, small things that can be worked into regular cadence.
Julie, does this translate into productivity, to loyalty, to retention, other things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, if there's trust, you're going to find out things earlier. So, and I think that sometimes, what I've really found is there will be times with an employee that you have to, what I'd call a more difficult conversation. Something with a client didn't go well and you have to give feedback, or Maybe that person, because of changes in the business, that person needs to now take on new responsibilities that you're not sure they're going to be excited about. That is the natural course of business. And I think people worry too much about getting the words exactly right. The words don't matter as much as the relationship. So if you've got that trust built over those small pieces over time, when there's a harder conversation, like it's much easier to do that. And the person knows at that point you have their best interest at heart, right? They know that you care. And so this business change is not personal. or this feedback is really done to help them do better. It's a concern for the business. So you get farther in the long run if you have some level of trust built with your team, ultimately.
And I'm also kind of thinking, especially in our technology sector here, that extra yard, that extra inch sometimes makes such a difference. In other words, you probably can, we all know how to kind of retain a job by, doing the job, but you have kind of the opportunity sometimes to do a little more. You observe something, but you just, if you're not that loyal to the company, you just go, oh, I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah. It's like, and I'm going to get like the technical term in HR is you're creating psychological safety. Okay. So if someone feels trust with you or safe, again, I don't love that word, but that's actually what it's called in the circles I run around in. But if they feel safe, they're going to bring up and say, hey, I think we could serve that client better if we do this, and feel like they can make a suggestion. And even if you say no, you're going to hear more and learn more because that person feels like they can come to you. So you'll find out things about clients, about process, about other employees potentially that you wouldn't normally hear if that trust was not there. So it's kind of like you got to take a little bit of a leap to try it. And over time is you don't flip a switch. You have to do it over a period of time. But when you do, there's huge benefit to that ultimately.
One of the things that I've heard, and you've talked about this too, is that maybe through the process you're talking about, it's often, with you're running a smaller company, you're able to, you cannot compete on compensation. There's always someone who can pay more, probably. Yeah. So it sounds to me like you're also saying, here's a way, sometimes for an employee, there's other things that they need that you can't just simply discover, through a normal process. Maybe they are caregiver to an older parent, and they need afternoons off or something like this. In other words, it's a non-compensation thing, but you're actually easily able to do it. And then all of a sudden the job becomes very valuable.
That's right. I mean, just the other day, I was having a conversation about how do you, when you're a smaller business, how do you compete with bigger companies for talent? And again, there's always a minimum compensation that you have to hit. So I just want to acknowledge that. Certainly, you have to be in the game with what you're paying. Right. But you don't have to be the highest paying employer in order to attract great people. You need to meet people where they're at. And as a smaller business, you have complete flexibility to do that. Like you said, if flexibility is important to someone, through that relationship, you will find that out. And what I often have reflected on is that I haven't always needed flexibility, but there have been periods of time in my life that are kind of like called seasonal, where I've needed that extra flexibility, and having an employer that knows me, trusts me, and is willing to be flexible since I'm performing. I mean, that's really valuable. And that's kept me because I felt appreciated, and I felt heard, and I felt like my needs matter as an employee. So whatever that is, and even it's the other thing I don't want small businesses to miss is that if you have an ambitious employee, so someone that really wants to take on more, you can bring them along to a client. I mean, it's like in a big company, that's like a big deal. Like as a smaller business, you can say, you know what, you want to learn business development in addition to the technical work you're doing, I'm going to bring you to a client. And you can do that. You can hand off pieces of that relationship if you want to, if someone's really eager to learn, and they're never going to get that experience at a larger organization that is just a little more structured. And again, if you've ever worked at a big company, you know what I mean? That's not bad, but it's just, again, big companies have their benefits too. But as a small business, don't miss that ability to kind of customize the employee experience based on what they want as well.
And, as we wrap up our podcast today, there's all these concerns that an owner has, including even equity. So
Sure.
I'm thinking that if you have a very talented, loyal crew, and you can actually show a potential owner that you don't have a lot of turnover, the value of the company must be greater.
Oh, completely. Completely. I mean, that is when you're looking at it from an HR standpoint, when a company is being purchased, they are definitely looking at, I know I have been part of the conversation on both ends, companies being bought, companies buying other companies. You are running those numbers to say, is this a solid, stable workforce? And for those senior people that may be at risk of leaving, do you have someone that is kind of waiting in the wings or could be developed into that next job as well? So even thinking about a little bit, not only about retention, which is, I think, based on trust for the most part, you can also build equity by making sure you're developing people to like be that next person in line so that you're ready to grow. So.
Well, Julie, I really want to thank you today. There's always so much to talk about. We could go
Yes,
on,
yes.
but
No, this is great.
that's why we're doing this as a series. It's
Mm-hmm.
becoming quite an encyclopedia of great ideas for everybody. I almost don't want to use, I hope you were not offended, I almost don't want to use the term HR. I almost
Yeah,
want
I know.
come up with something better, which is sort
Yeah.
of like you're offering advice on just how to grow your business and how to
Yes.
have a great team.
That's right. I mean, that's really what my business focuses on. We help businesses remove those bottlenecks that keep them from being in a position to grow. And a lot of times that has to do with building leadership capacity, because leaders need to replace themselves if they're going to grow their business, because you can't stay in the weeds forever. You got to hand that off to other people. And part of that is developing people to be able to accomplish that. So yeah, it's so much fun working with businesses to do that.
Well, Julie, I put up the where people can learn more.
That's right. Thank you.
And it's been great. Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. We'll see you in a few weeks then. Thank you. Thanks.